You know, the way I see it, the way I always saw it, ever since I started to meditate. I used to meditate and, drink a lot of water. That was when I was sort of on an experimental strict diet, right? And in meditation, there is introspective. You get to sort of look at yourself as well as how you might perceive yourself. So you know what's on my mind right now is the kind of things that I don't really talk about, right? I feel, as everybody feels, something should be private, yada yada yada. But the misconceptions around things, and as well as the intentions and the events and the outcomes. I was singled out and boycotted, literally, and I know this. And I know the parties that were involved, but I'll just stick to this one thing that I think I'm sort of sure of, like the way I saw things as they were unfolding. So the way I communicated with her was through Facebook, not necessarily through music. I mean, you know, it's more, it was about what the song tries to embody, what tries to present to the listener, the emotion and so forth. Right? So it was sort of communicating on an emotional level. And at some point I was like, you know, it's better to have some sort of formal communication, be it messages, Skype and whatever. And so I tried and she said no. So I decided to quit, and it broke her heart, and she was in distress, according to what I know now. So I went back to the same routine again, not for my own sake, own benefit, because I felt like I owed that to her, to sort of be the shoulder, right? As in any relationship, you want to help someone else, you want to help your partner. But then it came to a point where it was frustrating, because this medium, the way I might have perceived it, is not the same way she might have perceived it. When she hears a song, she might feel something different. And with life environment all around, it cannot be consistently about the positive aspect, right? So I try to force, just just talk. Why can't you talk to me? I mean, there are all these people you talk to, interact with, whatever, and then here I am. I have to decipher what you're trying to say, right? And it went to the point where it was sort of unfair to me, right? And I did lose a lot of time, and I did lose a lot of opportunities at the time. There is no thing like only one of us you know got hurt in this or whatever. I I became ultra reclusive, as well as emotionally paranoid. And emotionally paranoid is when I anticipate that I'm going to be hurt. So basically, that was my mind. and I decided I'll send her messages to try and explain where my mind is and see if she could sort of help out and then talk to me. I mean, even if it's talking to me and saying go away for check whatever, cool. But at least I got the message. Now to the outside world, I seemed like a stalker. Someone was asking for my presence. Someone wanted my presence. But to the outside, I seemed like a stalker. And they didn't connect the dots, alright? So it was completely secret. And my weird behavior was questioned, of course, by friends, family, and stuff. And so I decided come out with it. And I did come out with it. I declared it in public. And nothing happened. No acknowledgement whatsoever. So I seemed like a fool. And I got angry. And when I got angry, I might have lashed out. Lashed out being I folded my hands and said, I don't want anything to do with this anymore, right? And then when that got fixed, again I did the same thing because I wasn't only testing myself. I was trying to. I mean, I wasn't testing her. I was trying to test myself to see how devoted I am, how far my devotion extends. But to the rest of the world, I was the ex-boyfriend that hasn't gotten over a girl that keeps hounding her. This motivated me even more to try and plead to her to come to my defense, to tell people like, well, yeah, it's real. And this didn't happen. So it became a series of it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And throughout all of this, I I was speaking to her emotionally, not physically, right? Even when it came to speaking about making love seriously, as most people do, I tried to sort of give her the contact, you sort of give her the written version of that sense of emotion. Like there is emotion in it, and not just as we have today, the porn star life where people just do it on a regular. Like there isn't passion, right? And I was trying to express how this, as I have seen when I look around me, was unique to me and her, right? But I'll cut that for now. Ending with basically, we didn't communicate at all in the formal sense. I never Skyped her. I still haven't Skyped her or any form of video chat. I don't have a number. I do not WhatsApp her. And yeah, now she blocked me and I don't have access to her profile or whatever. And I guess she's doing what's best for her. And I made peace with that. Now, when it comes to the whole revealing of the emails, then when I wrote these emails, I narrated the emotion I was feeling as opposed to the practicality. So to layman's eyes, it would seem like what it seems like. But to someone that understands it, they can sort of interpret it. Alright? I was the guy that was like, if you want to get married, then sure, I'll get married. Right? I was at a point where I already put in my stake, I was like, I'm willing to spend my life with this person, right? So, what's marriage? And throughout all of this, I didn't think or acknowledge most of the outside opinions. The only time I tried to do this, was so she doesn't look strange in the eyes of people, right? So, there would be questions like, no, why can't she communicate? And, I would be like, well, it's a long process to sort of try and explain it to someone who isn't involved. And they got involved. And they were sending now the emails that are sent to her around. I don't know whether she's the one that did it. I'm not sure. But, as well as things like passwords and stuff that I gave her, that also became, public material, so to speak. So it was my way of sort of saying, I trust you, right? Is there any other way to prove to someone you trust them than by revealing intimate, your most intimate memories, be they bad or good? So I did do that. I did express about how at that point I was remembering my childhood in bad light. And for the sake of show, why not? In Safari, there were teenagers. I don't know whether they were teenagers or adults or whatever, who thought it would be fun to use me for their sex games. And I was probably 4 or 5 years old. That day I still remember my heart thumping. I knew something was wrong. I knew something was wrong, but I was too young to sort of say what it was. And, to also clear up the whole uncle thing, no one person has just one uncle. Now, the uncle that I was mad at uh, is deceased. And I'll probably get a lot of, slack for this, for sort of saying this. Um, because people are like, you get over it, you're a child, whatever. So I had an uncle, I don't know, I was maybe 7, 8 there, whatever, when he came in to move, when he moved from the village to our house. And he was a guy that liked touching little boys, right? And apart from that, he was cruel. He beat me. And when he beats me, he locks me in the room. Before my mother comes back from work, he would immediately open it. And this is while my friends are outside playing. So his punishment to me was, this means you won't have fun, with your friends. You also won't enjoy it. So, for a kid, and a heterosexual kid, you know, having a grown man, for what? So when we moved to Okanja, I had this sense of, I don't want to ever see Rundu again, because it triggered a lot of emotions. Now, some elements of this, some elements of my past and this, I exposed to her to show her that I trust her with my deepest, shameful secret, because it was something that I was ashamed about at the time. I remember even telling a friend of mine, like, no, if you're a guy and it's women, women don't rape, they that means you're doing your thing, little champion, 5-year-old John doing his thing. That was to sort of remove the parts that I didn't understand. Now, my parents are overprotective. they love me as most parents love their kids. But these aren't the things that I came out with to them first. I didn't come out with the family first and say, these are some of the stuff that bothered me, whatever. I tried psychology. I couldn't really tell the psychologist. I was that ashamed of being a victim, of being powerless. That's what a child is. And I think I took to my wall at some point and wrote that stuff. And people thought sodomy, and a lot of people were walking with a limp, laughing, and so forth. Uh, but okay, so I sent the emails and they get out. I don't know whether it was the church or whatever, but a lot of people got access to things that I trusted one person with, and I became scrutinized and harassed because of that. I was viewed as a scumbag, like I for somehow ruined her life or her career or something. While every time I spoke to her, I tried my best to motivate her. Seriously, motivate her beyond myself. And I tried to sort of have a manner of carrying myself that would inspire her to carry herself proudly, to talk to me. Just talk about anything random, that bond or bonding didn't happen. And at the time when you don't know what someone else is saying, you start to question, are you even in a relationship? Or where is it going? And you try to ask, what does the other person want? And if it's marriage, then sure, I'll marry you. But John is a useless person. This is the community now. You're talking about that John, he's a drunk. Oh, you're talking about that John, he abuses drugs. You're talking about that John, he still lives at home. You're talking about that John, he never progressed anyway. And so I guess the way I took it was she then became sort of ashamed of me, ashamed to say that she's in a relationship with me. And the reason why I wanted to establish things like getting her number and speaking through WhatsApp and stuff was to keep private things private, as well as what can I call it? Yeah, to keep private things private, as well as to have the security that I'm with that lady. But how are you with that lady when she always posts pictures of her and her male friends having fun and so forth? But she won't even talk to you in any form that goes beyond some encrypted message to hide. And who would she be hiding from? I assumed it's the parents. She doesn't want to tell them, hey, daddy, this is my fiance, the bum. Like, I didn't even want that to be public knowledge. She made it public knowledge, putting us in a position where she would speak about her fiance, and I would, then seem like the side boyfriend or whatever. And this was supposedly for show most, so that I'm not discovered to be the one. And this for some reason was supposedly not supposed to hurt me. I mean, I decided, you know, if that's the way it is, then do what your heart wants and go. And she says no, she won't go. So what happens? I try to fix the problem. Communication. Why can't we communicate? And no response. And the way people read the emails, like I was some sort of an oppressive, abusive person. I took that. I took that. They made me out to be this, they people even came up with things like gender-based violence. Like I would be capable of a crime of passion, right? Because I'm out of my head, most. I'm crazy. So I tried my best, but at some point I had to say, then bring your side. And that didn't happen. It never happened. So the post that I put up, the post where I said no, I mix cough syrup and what was it, sleeping pills or anti-anxiety medication or whatever. Uh, I try to put into perspective that for the first time I was trying to sort of free myself from feeling an obligation which doesn't present itself, right? So that Saturday that I don't remember, where I said, I did this, what, and I am afraid. I eventually got over the fear, obviously. Uh, but the fear was born from uncertainty. And this in turn started to hamper my relationship with my friends, with my family. Where is John? He's on his laptop, talking or doing things with her, and such things. But she won't present herself. So I decided, I'll just clear the air, to the point where I even told my mother about it. That's how certain I was of, the way I feel or the way I felt. And how do I then explain that there was a relationship which was kind of not really a relationship? It's completely, it doesn't seem like something that can be, you know, explained to someone that isn't in that position. Now, there are few people who are aware and who who felt like I was putting in more than I was getting out. And if I say this, you become hurt, and when someone is hurt, they lash out. So I tried to figure out what was the cause of the. Okay, yeah, disruption over. Uh, it's a good hours to speak. Yeah, anyway, the whole point of me talking about this and saying this now is to sort of get this off my back. To get this off my back, or off my hand, or even if my perspective isn't exactly accurate, because it's just my perspective, and most of the time it was always just my perspective, right? I got laughed at by people. Supposedly I was still living in 2007, and a lot of things. And I just didn't feel like she had my back then, right? Which is, what the relationship is sort of about. So if I lash out then in turn, and when I say lash out, I mean the kind of music that I listen to for catharsis when it comes to, these sort of things is Eminem. It's like there's always a track from him about how I feel at that moment. So it's like going through the collection, and there's just something that describes how you feel, and there's something, right? And with this, I was then accused of calling her names like she's a bitch, hoe, whatever. I am not Eminem. All the messages I sent her, which I think most of her family members and stuff have read, not once did I curse at her. Not once. I didn't even demean her. I demeaned myself. Every time I had to talk about how pathetic and lucky I am to make her feel good. It was like I'm out of options. What can I do now? What can I say? Right? Board a flight, go overseas there, and the person, that you don't have communication with, and you board this, where will you start looking? So, to put things to a close, I went over to the house to speak to the parent, right? To speak to her dad or someone, just so that I can have a little bit of insight on what was going on exactly, right? And when I got there was the neighbor, and he started acting funny, and the next thing he started, saying food check, chasing me away and all of that. And this is that at that time I was low, man. I looked like a bum, my shoes, I was unshaved, I wasn't really properly combed, and it's like, what's this beggar doing here? And that's what most people then brought to her table. They told her, how can you love a beggar? How can you want to marry a beggar? And I kind of understand that there are only so many times that you can sort of say to people, I don't care about being poor, I don't care about finances and what. It's about the love. And there's some point where people just decide, it's unrealistic, not productive, right? And yeah, it's like for that worthless person, right? So I never got to speak to her parents. I wanted to speak to her parents to clear things out so that I know what's going on, uh, from their perspective. And hopefully, to me, was they would then contact her on Skype or something, and I would just barge in and be like, hello, and the fear of expectation of wanting to be the perfect lady for John would sort of go away. Because we're all people, right? All ordinary people. But instead, the message that came across was that I proposed to her and I wasn't serious. I proposed and I cancelled, or I proposed and I wasn't serious. And the other side of the story was, I proposed to a girl who will never come. Right? I kept getting that a lot. Like, you will wait forever, you know, wait forever for her, and so forth and so forth. And my reaction to this most of the time was, okay, then I'll wait forever. Uh, and when I was at that point where I felt there was no backup from her, and I would be like, if that's the case, then forget it. Then I seem to be a scumbag who breaks a vow, right? And I try to stress to her a lot of times how I view marriage. It's two people coming together, love, through love and attraction. Attraction not by sexy woman, or yes, sure, but real attraction based on a mutual feeling, right? And the other guy, with her, there have been so many other guys in my history with her, but this other guy, um, yeah, I got angry. I guess I got jealous. Why does he get to talk to her? Why does she get to communicate to her? And to most of my friends, they were like, why would you be jealous of that person? Or, what's so important about her? Why do you put her on such a pedestal publicly that leads to your own public humiliation, right? I think this was something that I had to make and post. Um, because I couldn't believe, for one, as someone who cared, the things that I was being accused of, like me not wanting her to be successful. When I was one of her biggest cheerleaders, I'm like, let's unhook, let's just talk through messages or Skype or whatever, and we don't have to be online for all that time, and in that time you lose study time, right? I was worried about her study time and stuff, uh, and I wasn't worried about my study time, right? And this isn't about what was lost, it's about killing off the misconception once and for all, right? The way people viewed things and the way they pushed these views, it was just bad for me. Like when I suggested, like she should see a psychologist. When I suggested that, my intention was to help you through if you're having a bad spell, or to help you understand things that I might not understand about you, like why you won't communicate directly, you know. So in came people talking about I can't afford La Bola or some nonsense like that. Uh, you know, just unwanted passengers jumping in and stuff. And a certain friend too, who I don't know, who somehow thought, even during high school I didn't notice her. Why? What's changed, right? Um, but yeah, I just wanted to sort of let those dominoes fall, and I don't know how this comes off as, um, but yeah, it's basically me just saying thank you. Uh, she made me push myself, right? And that's what people didn't understand, of why I held her in high regard, because she pushed me, she motivated me, you know, and in her own way, in her own capacity, and that meant the world to me. That meant the world to me. Um, yeah, I was going to talk about what it is to be a Namibian, but yeah, I guess I'll talk about that later. But best of all, I'm open, right? I'm not against, her family and stuff. Uh, and most of all, I don't really care about her surname, like who her family is or what they possess and stuff. I'm just not materialistic like that. I don't care about that stuff. Something I told her a lot, you know. Um, but yeah, man, we were just, you know, two two kids in love who sort of made most of the people on the planet fall in love with them too. Um, so I have no hard feelings, and about whether or not I'm in a relationship with her or something. You know, we never communicated anyway, and we haven't communicated right now. And I don't know, somehow I feel like maybe my presence was bad for her, which is why I often try to cut her off, because I had this self-esteem thing where I felt like I wasn't even good enough for her. And yeah, you know, it's in the past, it's deep history. I mean, there's a lot that I just brushed through. Um, supposing, I mean, for example, there were many girls that claimed to be in a relationship with me or tried to make it seem like they were in a relationship with me to spite her. You know, I tried my best to say no, you know, they're just playing at your weaknesses, which is insecurities. And I might have ended up calling some people really fat and ugly and just roaches and stuff. You know, just trying to demean them to elevate her to the point where she could see herself through my eyes. And in that, uh, develop a new bond, right? And yeah, this is one of those things that I'll just leave out there. You know, uh, the conclusion of me and her, uh, I don't know. You know, high class people want to spend their life with other high class people, I guess. Uh, you know, she might have, not. She might have said that's not the case then, but who knows about now, right? Especially when you haven't had that meeting that seals the deal, something which averted us for a really long time. Yeah, that was my view, my perspective, in short, of what I think happened. And I'm sure she has her own perspective of things. And I might never get to hear it, or I might, I don't know, but yeah, man, I guess sometimes I guess maybe I love too hard. I was loving too hard, and it can be overwhelming to someone. Uh, to mean so much to someone that you want to know what is it actually that you can do for them. Um, the world is open. I miss that, I'll admit. So yeah, I'm the guy that told her, if that's what you want, then I'll just have to work harder and make sure that you get it. Right, that's the kind of drive that she instilled in me from almost nothing. Right, and I am forever grateful for that. And she's a champion to me because of that. You know, champion to me because she put up with my ass. Whether she'll still put up with my ass, I don't know. Yeah, there's just nowhere to plead. There's nowhere to plead. Yeah, I'll talk about what it means to be a Namibian to me, as opposed to what I want uh, to be in place for me to be a proud Namibian citizen, something that I can look, reflect on and say, this is why this is my country, and this is why I should be loyal. Uh, it's a vital question I'm going to take. Much love. Should I say I love her? I'm not sure. Yeah, that's one of I was also dealing with people were calling me obsessed. I was also dealing with, am I obsessed or am I in love? There was that. But I just realized some people haven't uh, really found that connecting feeling, right? And yeah, I mean, yeah, it's deep. But uh, couples bicker are never bitter. Bitter couples, uh, what's the same? Bitter couples bicker and remain bitter, right? Um, yeah, I hope this is a demonstration. I'm not a bigger person, one of the bickering type. Um, as well as just asking for help, man. Like, how can this be addressed? The communication as well as the anxiety for, I guess, bonding, right? Even if it's just her making things clear to me, that'll be great. If she can be helped along those lines, um, to understand, uh, not just how she feels, but the fact that how people view how she feels should not impede on her self-being. Like, people are jealous, man. They are, to actually hear someone claim to have a perfect union, it raises flags for those that don't have that. But we walk through things. That's what we do. We walk through things. You know, that's what makes it work. As to who is she,